Terryology. Oh, wait, is that the dude that was just on Joe Rogan? It totally is this dude. One of my favorite YouTubers is a guy named Professor Dave Explains. You've probably like come across his stuff over the years because he does like real like science tutorials and stuff. And then he's also done videos like breaking down flat earth stuff and why they're totally moronic and stuff like that. But I just was watching this morning because this guy, Terrence Howard, went on Joe Rogan, and let's just say he made a bit of a fool of himself. Just take this in.
Getting a lot of requests lately as to who to debunk next, and several dozen of you have asked me to address the complete insanity that was Terrence Howard's recent appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast. While I normally avoid lunatics of this caliber, I felt this one was worth addressing for a few reasons, so let's take a closer look. If you don't know who Terrence Howard is, he's an actor. I'll be honest, I've never seen him act in anything. He was in a really popular TV show that I didn't watch, and I've never seen any of his movies. He might be a great actor, he might suck. I don't know, and I don't care. What's more important is his extracurricular activities as a delusional narcissist who thinks he's the smartest person in human history. I don't know exactly when he started showing the world his God complex, but it was way before the Rogan appearance, so
yeah, he unironically has a God complex. He thinks he is legitimately one of the greatest thinkers in mankind of all time. Like, he thinks he has discovered a new math. He thinks the square root of 2 is 1, which is what his t-shirt says. So he thinks if you do 1 times 1, it should equal 2. I am not joking. And neither is he.
So let's go back just a bit. Here he is making a total fool of himself on the red carpet at the Emmys in 2019.
I've made some discoveries in my own personal life with the science that, Pythagoras was searching for. I was able to open up the flower of life properly and find the real wave conjugations that we've been looking for 10,000 years. Why would I continue, walking on water for tips when I've got an entire generation to teach a whole new world?
That's a big remark.
Okay.
This is amazing. He's going to break down piece by piece how everything he just said is wrong.
Let's break this down. The science that Pythagoras was searching for. Pythagoras was a philosopher and mathematician. The only things he did that could be considered part of the embryonic stages of science were ideas like the harmony of the spheres, where the planets moved according to the frequencies of musical notes, which of course was just baseless conjecture and whimsy, coincidentally Terry's two favorite things. He says he was able to open up the flower of life properly. That's this. The idea of opening this up doesn't mean anything. It's just 19 overlapping circles. If you pull them apart, you get 19 circles. Yes, it's nice and pretty looking. Shapes are neat. Real wave conjugations, meaningless. Conjugation is something you do to a verb in an inflected language according to tense, number, and person. Here's a conjugated Italian verb. In biology, the word is used to describe horizontal transfer of genetic material between bacteria. You can't conjugate a ham sandwich, and you can't conjugate a wave. 10,000 years is a random number that goes farther back than all of recorded history. He tosses out walking on water to foreshadow his blatant messiah complex, and he has absolutely nothing to teach even a small child, let alone an entire generation. That's a big remark, says the interviewer, clearly pretty desperate to get out of this ridiculous conversation without directly insulting him.
What do you intend to do?
Well, let me put it this way. All energy in the universe is expressed in motion. All motion is expressed in waves. All waves are curved. So where does the straight lines come from to make the platonic solids? There are no straight lines. So when I took the flower of life and opened it properly, I found a whole new wave conjugations that expose the in-between spaces. It's the thing that holds us all together.
Okay, Greg is
I didn't
looking
do
up
too well
right.
in trigonometry. What is the
platonic solids?
How is energy expressed exactly? By motion? Whatever he could mean by that, he's wrong. For example, potential energy is the energy held by an object by virtue of its position in a field, like a gravitational or electromagnetic field. No motion, yet energy. Matter can be converted to energy. No motion required. No, not all motion is expressed in waves. The motion of a wave is a wave. Periodic motion can be expressed with a wave. Linear motion also exists, hence straight lines exist. What are platonic solids? That's these. convex regular polyhedra in three-dimensional Euclidean space. Regular polyhedron means that all the sides are the exact same shape, that shape being a particular regular polygon, which means a two-dimensional shape with all the sides and angles being equal. There are 5 of them, and they were conceived of as hypothetical abstractions, just like everything else in geometry. And just for fun, if you take a simple cubic lattice structure for an ionic solid, you can get those straight lines he said don't exist. Again, he did not open any flower of life. He did not conjugate any waves. He doesn't specify what these spaces are and what they are between, or how they hold anything together. In short, it's pseudo-spiritual bullshit, and these anchors are justifiably laughing their asses off. Let's get one more tidbit.
I'm sharing that on Tuesday when I receive my star. I'm going to be able to prove that gravity is only an effect and not a force. I'm putting something on YouTube where I will build the planet Saturn without gravity and build the Milky Way galaxy without gravity.
The dude is outside of his mind. Bro is not cooking. Like, seriously. What's funny is somebody in the comments section actually, let me see if he's still here. Yeah, as an Uber driver in Chicago, I gave a ride to somebody who said they were a PA or personal assistant working on Empire, which is the show he was on, which was shot in Chicago. I asked what it's like working on a live TV set, and he went off about how weird Terrence Howard was, and they were told by their boss, presumably, not to engage with him because he would go off on tangents about string theory in between takes and waste time, which is freaking hilarious that they're telling like personal assistants that work on these shows like, don't mess with him because he will just start going off about platonic solids and how gravity's not real and it's all an illusion and he's deflowered the flower of life and stuff. Like, he's just crazy.
Did you also say you're getting your star on Tuesday?
Yeah.
On the Walk of
On the Walk of Fame.
Interestingly enough, in the context of general relativity, you can argue that gravity is an effect and not a force. But it does not follow, then, that gravity isn't real. And it gets much worse from there. He's going to build Saturn and build the Milky Way galaxy. How exactly? Like in a simulation? That needs gravity. If he built a planet or a galaxy with his hands, I would worship him as the one true God. But something tells me that in reality, he's been watching some electric universe frauds on YouTube, and now he thinks he's smarter than Einstein.
And we've come to find that the universe, they are abandoning the standard model, the ideas of black holes and dark matter, for an electric model of the universe that is in response to the Birkeland currents and all these things. It's a better version, a better vision of how we should see the universe. That's how I see it, and I think it should be explored.
Again, like he thinks he is more brilliant than like Einstein. He thinks he has encountered secrets and things that Einstein didn't think. Like the dude has a god complex. Like it's crazy. It's wild.
Bingo! Terry binged some Thunderbolts project videos and is repeating what he heard as though he thought of it. Then this woman tries to change the subject again, and he starts whining about not
like,
ever
please
having
talk
been
about
nominated
anything
for an
else.
Emmy. Anyway, this is the magnitude of nut job we are dealing with, but it gets much worse. Around that same time, Terrence started yapping about his new form of math, which he dubbed, I shit you not, Terryology, and which included the startling new revelation that 1 times 1 is 2. Which prestigious mathematics journal did he select to announce this groundbreaking development? The View. Let's take a look.
You can't make it up. He announces his new form of math that has concluded that 1 times 1 equals 2, and he is revealing it on The View. You can't make it up. Like, seriously, it's insane. It's crazy. Duck Salami, thank you for 9 months. I wish I believed in myself that much. I think if you were like a multimillionaire who like lives a very cushy life, you'd have plenty of time to waste on stuff like this.
And when I was at Oxford, now this is the point where 4 bubbles meet equally and oppositely. Yes.
He made a
and
toy.
It's where 12 planes meet. This is an undiscovered geometry that I'm now making known to the world here on this show.
He made a balloon animal and is revealing it on The View as a brand new discovered geometry.
Isn't that fantastic?
Isn't that great? I like how she has the same reaction as like a mom whose toddler brings her a mud pie he made in the backyard. Wow, that's so good. Good job. Same reaction.
What was the reception? Well, when I was at Oxford, they were so upset because how can a man that didn't graduate from one of their prestigious schools come and tell them that the square root of 2 was a rational number? And I said, I didn't come to tell you guys this. I just came to prove to you that it's a rational number. And they didn't like it.
This is, again, the problem with like people who think this way, is that they think they have some sort of secret knowledge, and it's conspiratorial thinking. It's they don't like that I am saying what shouldn't be said. They don't like that I'm challenging the status quo. So if I'm not believed, and if they laugh at me because what I'm saying is insane, if they laugh at me and don't believe me, it's not because I'm wrong. It's because I'm fighting the establishment. You know, it's just madness.
You heard right. Terrence presented his bullshit at Oxford, and the smart people laughed at him. But why would they laugh at poor old Terry? Do you think the ladies of The View will be a more receptive audience?
Well, you have to remember, our entire world economy is based on 1 × 1 = 1.
Yeah, our entire economy is based on
Math.
1 × 1 = 1. Well, economics does involve numbers, so it should obey the basic logic surrounding numbers that even children can understand. So what's the problem?
So if you can prove that an action times an action equals a reaction, which science proves, then 1 × 1 must equal more than 1. And to have the physical proof of it, that kind of shakes things up a bit.
Well, you're a shaker-upper.
Wow.
So fascinating. Not what you're saying. The fact that you even got to the studio. Like, how do you tie your own shoes, or are they Velcro?
You can prove that an action times an action equals a reaction. Okay, numbers are not actions. They're numbers. So that doesn't mean anything. An action times an action also doesn't mean anything because actions are not numbers. Also, no, 2 actions do not necessarily cause a reaction, no matter what he could possibly mean by reaction. If 2 forces are acting on an object that are equal in magnitude but opposite in direction, the object won't move. 2 actions, no reaction. Sorry, Terry. But more importantly than demonstrating how everything he just said is bananas idiotic, let's review what multiplication is. Multiplication is an elementary arithmetic operation which is essentially repeated addition. 1 × 4 literally means the number 1 4 times, and then you add them up. 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 = 4. 1 × 3, write 1 3 times, add them up, you get 3. 1 × 2, 1 twice, 1 + 1 is 2. 1 × 1 means you write 1 1 time. So it's 1. There's nothing to add. His revolutionary discovery is just him being dumber than a toddler. And toddlers do like to shake things, so this lady isn't wrong.
Well, you're a shaker-upper.
Let's be clear. There are only 2 possibilities. 1, Terrence Howard is doing a Joaquin Phoenix-style extended piece of performance art and is therefore profoundly brilliant. Or 2, he's a delusional narcissist incapable of living his life without pretending that he's the smartest person in human history. Or let's be honest, a god. I'm putting my money on the latter because I've seen this all before. Pick your favorite flat earther. This is their defense mechanism too. The smallest of minds can't face a world that doesn't recognize their self-proclaimed brilliance. So unleash a word salad, convince yourself it's science, and hope that nobody challenges you on it.
Everything inherently is dielectric because it has matter, and then it has a relationship within the medium, the universal background, the absolute frame of reference, the field of energy that is the ether. It receives energy from that.
These types of people enact the most impressive mental gymnastics imaginable to maintain their own ego, and the more I encounter it, the less I find it cute or entertaining. It's a disease that infects impressionable people and measurably worsens society. It's not something to simply laugh at, although we are going to laugh quite a bit more before I return to this thread in my conclusion. So as promised, let's dive into his very recent appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast. It's 3 hours long, so we aren't going to hit every moment. Rest assured, he was completely insane from top to bottom. But let's just go through some highlights.
This is where, like, when I first heard all this stuff that he was doing, I didn't realize he'd been doing this for years. So I thought, well, I think Empire, the show, ended or is about to end. So maybe he's just trying to get attention. He's going to launch some new show or movie or a stand-up career. Who knows? But I was like, maybe he's just trying to find some attention. But no, he's just like, this is who he is. He's just that out there. It's what happens when somebody who is like a giga conspiracy theorist, maybe has some other mental stuff going on, and a god complex, and is like a malignant narcissist, when they all get together and then happen to get cast in some shows and movies and become multimillionaires. Like, that's how this happens. So we went on Joe Rogan, and for 3 hours he just spews this stuff. It's crazy.
My first memory was almost like when you're dreaming and you're falling and you hit the bottom and you wake up.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first memory, but I didn't wake up here. I was inside my mother's womb, and I was about maybe 6 months inside the womb.
He comes out hot in the first 30 seconds, claiming that he remembers being in his mother's womb. I'll remove the suspense for you. No, he didn't. That's physically impossible. Got any proof, Terry?
I remember all of that.
You remember coming out?
Remember being compressed. I remember being born. I remember being circumcised. I remember the whole nine, and the proof of it was when my wife Mira, that you just met, when she was 6 months pregnant with my son Kieran, I wanted to prove to her what I was talking about. So I put a light on her stomach every day at 6 o'clock at night, and I would move that light back and forth, and I'd put a song on for a week straight. First thing he wanted to do.
I also find something deeply disrespectful about going on somebody's podcast and then smacking gum into the microphone while you're talking. I just think that's such like an a-hole move.
Was see light. He loved lights from that early stage, and I can ask him the square root of 2, the square root of 5, the square root of that, the square root of pi, and he will run it off.
So his proof of him remembering being born is a random anecdote about his wife's pregnancy, his kid liking light, and a lie about his son being able to do math that Terry himself can't do. But there's more.
And then when I was about 5 years old, I had another dream, and there was this mansion, and he would hand me these shapes, and each shape was different and amazing, and I had access to all the knowledge. The proof of it is the 97 patents that I have now. The proof of it is the industries that I've innovated.
Yes,
he doesn't understand what proof means. And I know that's not going to come as much of a surprise given what he believes, but I still think it's important to note.
Proof that he has access to all the universe's knowledge is that he has some patents, something that anybody can get for anything and proves absolutely nothing except that he likes to waste money. He's never innovated any industry. That's why he doesn't actually do anything except ramble like a lunatic on podcasts.
You know, I had the grand unified field equation. I had already put that together, and at 7, 8, I was working with these things, and then I went through all of the hell that I had to go through.
Yes, he had a grand unified field equation at 7 years old, but he wrote it down once and the dog ate it, and then he forgot what it was. That's why he didn't get the Nobel Prize for physics. Also, his girlfriend goes to another school. That's wwhy you don't know her.
But my intention was to rebuild the periodic table, build a new periodic table, because the stuff I had learned in college, I went to school for chemical engineering the first year over at Pratt. And they, at the time, I think it was like 108 elements. And I told the teacher, the professor, about the relationship between hydrogen on the spectrometer and carbon and silicon and cobalt. And I was like, it's the same exact color, same tone, just doubled in each octave. And he was like, no, each element is the same element and it will always be that element. And I was like, you don't see the relationship. So I left school.
Did you leave school or did you flunk out because you kept writing cobalt is an octave of carbon on your exams instead of answering the questions?
And I was going to spend 40 years rebuilding the periodic table, and I found out that Walter Russell had already did that. And he did it based upon the natural curvature of everything.
Walter Russell, who was not a chemist, made this in the 1920s, and it doesn't mean anything. The chemical elements display periodicity. You can illustrate that periodicity in rows, or you can make spirals and other shapes. It's arbitrary, and listing elements this way doesn't offer any novel insight into chemistry or any predictive power whatsoever. Terry just likes the shape as much as he likes pretending to understand chemistry better than chemists, or 10th graders for that matter.
And when
So, like, here's the deal with it. Like, either he's telling the truth about, like, thinking he remembers his birth, and he honestly believes that at 7 years old, he wrote down a general field equation, or whatever, and that he is one of the most brilliant minds to ever live. He could genuinely believe that. Or it's some level of like, well, and to believe that, he would have had to have maybe some sort of psychotic episode, you know, series of them where he actually has a memory that wasn't real, but that he's constructed to make himself feel more sophisticated. The other perhaps more likely thing is that this is like a self-defense mechanism of some sort, where he is just, it's something with like a lot of flat earthers who might not feel appreciated, who might not feel that intelligent or special, and so all of a sudden they gain access to this super secret knowledge that makes them super special. Because again, it tends to be that like people who believe the most extreme conspiracy theories also tend to believe in like, and the government's watching me and listening to me. It's why like the old stereotype of like conspiracy theorist that believes the black helicopters are coming, like that's because a lot of the time it makes them feel more special than they actually are. It's how they justify their existence. And it can get really sad when you think about it, that their life has to be justified through lies like that. But the other possibility is, of course, that it's just years of substance abuse and drugs and stuff that's eroded his brain. But my understanding is he's been like this forever, like as long as anybody has known him. And he's even saying that in college, he tried to go to college for a year and then quit because he thought he was smarter than the professors, because he thought that the elements had colors and sounds. Like, what? You know, to a certain extent, it's like you can't tell if he's doing performance art or if he's just like this. It seems like he's just like this. But this is a prime example of somebody that is spewing absolute demonstrable BS. And I mean, his t-shirt he's wearing is square root of 2 equals 1. Because again, he believes 1 times 1 equals 2. He doesn't understand, like, I don't know if it's kindergarten math, but like it probably is. Like he doesn't understand toddler levels of education. So with all of it, I just think that like the reason normally, like if I saw a guy like this talking in a coffee shop or something, I'd just be like, oh yeah, cool. And then I'd leave. But for him, like this is very irresponsible, because whether he realizes it or not, being who he is, being famous and wealthy, he's afforded opportunities others aren't. Like he's allowed to go to, like he went to Oxford and tried to talk to them about stuff and argue his point. Like how many other people get the chance to go to Oxford and talk to students and stuff? Basically no one. But he's allowed to do that because he's an actor. He's famous and rich. And even if 1 out of 100, 1 out of 1,000 people that hear him talk on like Joe Rogan believe him, they just started down a path that is utterly insane and out of their minds. Like they're going to end up being ostracized, being mocked, losing out on job opportunities, getting booted out of college, whatever it may be, because they are so wrong. But because of the way that he does the mental gymnastics around it, if you don't believe him, just like he said in the interview to The View, the helm of intellectual complexity in the US, he said that they didn't listen to him and they laughed at him because He's coming in, shaking the establishment, telling them something they didn't want to hear, even though he proved it. He says he proved it to them, that 1 × 1 = 2. So it's irresponsible. It's dangerous. And I mean, honestly, you hear how he's treated by like the press and the media when he goes on the red carpet and stuff. And obviously their job is not to try and fact check him in real time. Their jobs are to make celebrity say funny thing and go viral with the clip. Like that's all they're there to do. So I understand why they didn't offer pushback. But a lot of these actors and performers and famous and rich people that end up in situations like this, they never get challenged because they never put themselves in a position to be challenged by design. Like they don't want to be told they're wrong. So they're only ever going to go on to friendly territory, which is why he reveals his new math and his bubble balloon newly discovered geometric shape on The View instead of like something else. You know, it's all crazy. I think he's an honest believer. I think he honestly believes what he's saying. I just think he is so far down the rabbit hole and he has had no one to pull him back on course for so long that he's probably too far gone. You know, I think if he had people 25, 30 years ago telling him, what are you talking about, moron? Like if he had some people tease him a little bit, maybe he would have snapped out of it, but it never happened. So now he's just this far in. He's an actor, bro. It took Einstein maybe 25 years of caving to figure out a theory. Yeah, we'll check back with him in 25 years. We'll see, we'll see where he's at, if he's cracked the code. Again, he's already, according to him, he's already proven that 1 × 1 = 2 because each 2 actions, what did he say? 2 actions make a reaction. So 1 + 1 = 2.
So if you can prove that an action times an action equals a reaction, which science proves, then...
Which science proves, because every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Okay, but 2 actions can negate the reaction, as he demonstrates. So like every part of it is wrong, just every part of it. Like it's really amazing. It's fantastic. It's shocking. So all of this to say, Banana Blitz, thank you for the $2 super chat. Yes, I have heard of Terryology. You can't start me on these tirades, otherwise I'll just go down and end up very, very distracted. I'll be like, how the hell did I start talking about all this? This is crazy. Anyway, so I'll link the video to Professor Dave Explains his full breakdown of this. So there we go in chats. You guys go check it out. I highly recommend that you go and watch the full breakdown because it's 48 minutes of this and it's just, it keeps getting better and better because he just, every time you're like, okay, that was the most insane, crazy thing. And then he goes a step further. It's wild. So go check that out. Sub to Professor Dave. I watch him in my free time all the time. I love Professor Dave. He also does like debunks of the Discovery Institute, all sorts of good stuff. So it's always very fun. He took my thing.